Book 5, Odysseus, Nymph, and the Shipwreck. As dawn rose up from bed by her lordly mate Tithonus, bringing light to immortal gods and mortal men, the gods sat down in council, circling Zeus, the Thunder King, who rules the world. Athena began, recalling Odysseus to their thoughts, the goddess deeply moved by the man's long ordeal. Held captive still in the nymph Calypso's house, Father Zeus, you other happy gods who never die. Never let any sceptred king be kind and gentle now, not with all his heart, or set his mind on justice. No, let him be cruel, and always practice outrage. Think, not one of the people whom he ruled remembers Odysseus now, that godlike man, as kindly as a father to his children. Now he's left to pine on an island, racked with grief, in the nymph Calypso's house. She holds him there by force. He has no way to voyage home to his own native land, no trim ships in reach, no crew to ply the oars and send him scudding over the sea's broad back. And now his dear son, they plot to kill the boy on his way back home. Yes, he has sailed off for news of his father, to holy Pylos first, then out to the sunny hills of Lacedaemon. My child, Zeus who marshals the thunderous replied, what nonsense you let slip through your teeth. Come now, wasn't the plan your own? You conceived it yourself. Odysseus shall return and pay the traitors back. Telemachus, sail him home with all your skill. The power is yours, no doubt, home to his native country, all unharmed, while the suitors limp to port, defeated, baffled men. With those words, Zeus turned to his own son, Hermes. You are our messenger, Hermes, sent on all our missions. Announce to the nymph with lovely braids our fixed decree. Odysseus journeys home. The exile must return. But not in the convoy of the gods or mortal men. No, on a lashed, makeshift raft hung with pains. On the 20th day he will make his landfall, fertile Cytherea, the land of Phaeacians, close kin to the gods themselves, who with all their hearts will praise him like a god, and send him off in a ship to his own beloved land, giving him bronze and hoards of gold and robes, more plunder than he could ever have won from Troy if Odysseus had returned intact with his fair share. So his destiny ordains. He shall see his loved ones reach his high-roofed house, his native land at last. So Zeus decreed, and the giant-killing guide obeyed at once. Quickly, under his feet, he fastened the supple sandals, ever-glowing gold, that wing him over the waves and boundless earth with the rush of gusting winds. He seized the wand that enchants the eye of men whenever Hermes wants, or wakes up from sleep. That wand in his grip, the powerful giant killer, swooping down from Pieria, down the high clear air, plunged to the sea and skimmed the waves like a trend that down the deadly gulfs of the barren salt swells glides and dives for fish, dipping its beating wings in bursts of spray. So Hermes skipped the crests on endless crests. But once he gained that island worlds apart, up from the deep blue sea he climbed to dry land and strode on till he reached the spacious cave, where the nymph with lovely braids had made her home, and he found her there inside. A great fire blazed on the hearth, and the smell of cider, cleanly split and sweet wood burning bright, wafted a cloud of fragrance down the island. Deep inside she sang, the goddess Calypso, lifting her breathtaking voice as she guided back and forth before her loom, her golden shuttle weaving. Thick, luxuriant woods grew round the cave, alders and black poplars, pungent cypresses too, and there birds roosted, folding their long wings, owls and hawks, and the spread-beaked ravens of the sea, black shimmers who make their livings off the waves. And round the mouth of the cavern trailed a vine laden with clusters, bursting with ripe grapes, 4 springs in a row, bubbling clear and cold, running side by side, took channels left and right. Soft meadows spreading round were starred with violets, lush with beds of parsley. Why, even a deathless god who came upon the place would gaze in wonder, heart entranced with pleasure. Hermes, the guide, the mighty giant killer, stood there, spellbound. But once he'd had his fill of marveling at it all, he briskly entered the deep vaulted cavern. Calypso, lustrous goddess, knew him at once, as soon as she saw his features face to face. Immortals are never strangers to each other, no matter how distant one may make her home. But as for great Odysseus, Hermes could not find him within the cave. Off he sat on a headland, weeping there as always, wrenching his heart with sobs and groans and anguish, gazing out over the barren sea through blinding tears. But Calypso, lustrous goddess, questioned Hermes, seating him on a glistening polished chair. God of the golden wand, why have you come? A beloved, honored friend. But it's been so long, your visit's much too rare. Tell me, what's on your mind? I am eager to do it, whatever I can do, whatever can be done. And the goddess drew a table up beside him, heaped with ambrosia, mixed him deep red nectar. Hermes, the guide and giant killer, ate and drank. Once he had dined and fortified himself with food, he launched right in, replying to her questions. As one god to another, you ask me why I've come. I'll tell you the whole story. Mince no words. Your wish is my command. It was Zeus who made me come, no choice of mine. Who would willingly roam across a sea waste so vast, so endless? Think, no city of men in sight, and not a soul to offer the gods, a sacrifice and burn the fattest victims. But there is no way, you know, for another god to thwart the will of storming Zeus, and make it come to nothing. Zeus claims you keep beside you a most unlucky man, most harried of all, who fought for Priam's Troy 9 years, sacking the city in the 10th, and then set sail for home. But voyaging back, they outraged Queen Athena, who loosed their gales and pounding seas against them. There, all the rest of his loyal shipmates died, but the wind drove him on. The current bore him here. Now Zeus commands you to send him off with all good speed. It is not his fate to die here, far from his own people. Destiny still ordains that he shall see his loved ones, reach his high-roofed house, his native land at last. But lustrous Calypso shuddered at those words, and burst into a flight of indignation. Hard-hearted you are, you gods, you unrivaled lords of jealousy, scandalized when goddesses sleep with mortals openly, even when one has made the man her husband. So when Dawn, with her rose-red fingers, took Orion, you gods in your everlasting ease were horrified till chaste Artemis, throned in gold, attacked him. Out on Delos, shot him to death with gentle shafts. So when Demeter, the graceful one with lovely braids, gave way to her passion and made love with Aeson, bedding down in a furrow plowed 3 times, Zeus got wind of it soon enough, I'd say, and blasted the man to death with flashing bolts. So now at last, you gods, you train your spite on me for keeping a mortal man beside me, the man I saved, riding astride his kneel board, all alone, when Zeus, with one hurl of a white bolt, had crushed his racing warship down the wine-dark sea. There all the rest of his loyal shipmates died, but the wind drove him on, the current bore him here. I welcomed him warmly, cherished him, even vowed to make the man immortal, ageless, all his days. But since there is no way for another god to thwart the will of storming Zeus and make it come to nothing, let the man go. The Almighty insists, commands, and destroy himself on the barren salt sea. I'll send him off, but not with any escort. I have no ships in reach, no crew to ply the oars, and send him scudding over the sea's broad back. But I will gladly advise him. I'll hide nothing, so he can reach his native country all unharmed. And the guide and giant killer reinforced her words. Release him at once, just so. Steer clear of the rage of Zeus, or down the years he'll fume and make your life a hell. With that, the powerful giant killer sped away. The queen nymph sought out the great Odysseus, the commander of Zeus still ringing in her ears, and found him there, on the headland, sitting still, weeping, his eyes never dry, his sweet life flowing away with tears he wept for his foiled journey home, since the nymph no longer pleased. In the nights, true, he'd sleep with her in the arching cave. He had no choice, unwilling lover alongside lover, all too willing. But all his days he'd sit on the rocks and beaches, wrenching his heart with sobs and groans and anguish, gazing out over the barren sea through blinding tears. So coming up to him now, the lustrous goddess ventured. No need, my unlucky one, to grieve here any longer. No, don't waste your life away. Now I am willing, heart and soul, to send you off at last. Come, take bronze tools, Cut your lengthy timbers, make them into a broad-beamed raft, and top it with half-deck high enough to sweep you free and clear on the misty seas. And I myself will stock her with food and water, ruddy wine to your taste, all to stave off hunger, give you clothing, send you a stiff following wind, so you can reach your native country all unharmed. If only the gods are willing. They rule the vaulting skies. They're stronger than I plan and drive things home. Long endured Odysseus shuddered at that and broke out in a sharp bite of protest. Passage home? Never. Surely you're plotting something else, goddess, urging me, in a raft, to cross the ocean's mighty gulfs, so vast, so full of danger, not even deep-sea ships can make it through, swift as they are, and buoyed up on the winds of Zeus himself. I won't set foot on a raft until you show good faith, until you consent to swear, goddess, a binding oath that you'll never plot some new intrigue to harm me. He was so intense, the lustrous goddess smiled, stroked him with her hand, savored his name, and chided. Ah, what a wicked man you are, and never at a loss. What a thing to imagine, what a thing to say. Earth, be my witness now, the vaulting sky above, and the dark skating waters of the Styx. I swear, by the greatest, grimmiest oath that binds the happy gods, I will never plot some new intrigue to harm you. Never. All I have in mind and devise for you are the very plans I'd fashion for myself if I were in your straits. My ever impulse bends to what is right. Not iron, trust me, the heart within my breast. I am all compassion. And the illustrious Calypso quickly led the way, as he followed in the footsteps of the goddess. They reached the arching cavern, man and god as one, and Odysseus took the seat that Hermes just left, while the nymph set out before him every kind of food and drink that mortal men will take. Calypso sat down face to face with the king, and the woman served her nectar and ambrosia. They reached out for the good things that lay at hand, and when they'd had their fill of food and drink, the illustrious one took up a new approach. So then, royal son of Lastrus, Odysseus, man of exploits, still eager to leave at once and hurry back to your own home, your beloved native land, good luck to you. Even so, farewell. But if you only knew, deep down, what pains are fated to fill your cup before you reach that shore, you'd stay right here, preside in our house with me, and be immortal, much as you long to see your wife, the one you pine for all your days. Yet, I might just claim to be nothing less than she, neither in face nor figure. Hardly right, is it, for mortal women to rival immortal goddesses? How in build, in beauty? Ah, great goddess, worldly Odysseus answered. Don't be angry with me, please. All that you say is true. How well I know. Look at my wise Penelope. She falls far short of you, your beauty, your statue. She is mortal. After all and you never age or die. Nevertheless, I long, I pine, all my days, to travel home and see the dawn of my return. And if a good god will wreck me yet again on the wine-dark sea, I can bear that too, with a spirit tempered to endure. Much have I suffered, labored along and hard by now in the waves and wars. And this to the total, bring the trial on. Even as he spoke, the sun set and the darkness swept the earth. And now, withdrawing into the cavern's deep recesses, along with each other's arms, they lost themselves in love. When young Dawn, with her rose-red fingers, shone once more, Odysseus quickly dressed himself in cloak and shirt, while the nymph slipped on a loose, glistening robe. Firmly, a joy to the eye, and round her waist she ran a brocaded golden belt, and over her head a scarf to shield her brow. Then turned to plan the great man's voyage home. She gave him a heavy bronze axe that fit his grip, both blades well honed, a fine olive haft lashed firm to his head. She gave him a polished smoothing adze as well, and then she led the way to the island's outer edge, where the trees grew tall, alders, black poplars, and firs that shot sky high, seasoned, drying for years, ideal for easy floating. Once she'd shown her guest where the tall timber stood, Calypso, the lustrous goddess, headed home again. He set to cutting trunks. The work was done in no time. 20 in all he felled, He trimmed them clean with his axe and split them deftly, trued them straight to the line. Meanwhile, the radiant goddess brought him drills. He bored through all his planks and wedged them snugly, knocked them home together, locked with pegs and joints, broad in the beam, and bottom flat as a merchantman. And when master shipwrights turned out her hull, so broad the craft Odysseus made himself, working away at speed, he put up half decks pinned to close-set ribs, and sweep of gunwales rounded off the sides. He fashioned the mast next and sank its yard deep in, and added a steering oar to hold her right on course. Then he fenced her stem to stern with twigs and wicker, bulwark against the sea surge, floored with heaps of brush. And lustrous Calypso came again, now with bolts of cloth, to make the sail. And he finished off that too, expertly. Braces, sheets, and brails. He rigged all fast on board, then eased her down with levers into the sunlit sea. That was the 4th day, and all his work was done. On the 5th, the lovely goddess launched him from her island. Once she had bathed and decked him out in fragrant clothes, and Calypso stowed 2 skins aboard, dark wine in one. The larger one held water, added a sack of rations, filled with her choicest meats to build his strength, and summoned a wind to bear him onward, fair and warm. The wind lifting his spirits high, royal Odysseus spread sail, gripping the tiller, seated astern, and now the master mariner steered his craft, sleep never closing his eyes, forever scanning the stars, the Pleiades and the ploughman late to set, and the great bear that mankind also calls the wagon. She wheels on her axis, always fixed, watching the hunter, and she alone is denied a plunge in the ocean's baths. Hers were the stars, and the lustrous goddess told him to keep hard to port as he cut across the sea. And the 17 days he sailed, making headway well. On the 18th, shadowy mountains slowly loomed, and the Phaeacians' island reaching toward him now, over the misty breakers, rising like a shield. But now Poseidon, god of the earthquake, saw him, just returning home from his Ethiopian friends. From miles away, on the Solmi mountain range, he spied Odysseus sailing down the sea, and it made his fury boil even more. He shook his head and rumbled to himself, "Outrageous! Look how the gods have changed their minds about Odysseus. While I was off with my Ethiopians, just look at him there, nearing Phaeacia's shores, where he's fated to escape his noose of pain that's held him until now. Still my hopes ride high. I'll give that this man his swamping fill of trouble." With that, he rammed the clouds together, both hands clutching his trident, churned the waves into chaos, whipping all the gales from every quarter, crowding over, in thunderheads, the earth and sea at once, and night swept down from the sky. East and south winds clashed, and the raging west and north sprung from the heavens, roiled heaving breakers up, and Odysseus' knees quaked, his spirit too. Numb with fear, he spoke to his own great heart. "Wretched man, what becomes of me now at last? I fear the nymph foretold it all too well. On the high seas," she said, "before I can reach my native land, I'll fill my cup of pain. And now, look, it all comes to pass. What monstrous clouds, King Zeus, crowning the whole wide heaven black, churning the seas in chaos, gales blasting, raging around my head from every quarter, my death plunge in a flash. It is certain now. 3, 4 times blessed, my friends in arms who died on the plains of Troy those years ago, serving the sons of Atreus to the end. Would to God I'd die there too, and met my fate that day the Trojans, swarms of them, hurled at me with bronze spears, fighting over the corpse of proud Achilles. A hero's funeral then, my glory spread by comrades. Now what a wretched death I am doomed to die." At that, a massive wave came crashing down on his head, a terrific onslaught spinning his craft round and round. He was thrown clear of the decks. The steering oar wrenched from his grasp, and in one lightning attack, the brawling gale wind struck full force, snapping the mast mid-shaft and hurling the sail and sail yard far across the sea. He went under a good long while, no fast way out, no struggling up from under the giant waves' assault. His clothing dragged him down, divine Calypso's gifts. But at last he fought his way to the surface, spewing bitter brine, streams of it pouring down his head. But half drowned as he was, he'd not forget his craft. He lunged after her, the breakers, laying hold and huddling amidships, fled the stroke of death. Pell-mell the rollers tossed her along down current, wild as the north winds tossing thistle along the fields at high harvest, dry stalks clutching each other tightly, so the gale winds tumbled her down the sea, this way, that way. Now the south wind flinging her over to north to sport with, now the east wind giving her up to west to harry on and on. But someone saw him. Cadmus's daughter with lovely ankles, Ino, a mortal woman, once with a human voice, called Lyseuthia. Now she lives in the sea's salt depths, esteemed by all the gods as she deserves. She pitied Odysseus, tossed, tormented so. She broke from the waves, like a sheer water on the wing, lit on the wreck, and asked him kindly, "Ah, poor man, why is the god of earthquakes so dead set against you, strewing your way with such a crop of troubles? But he can't destroy you. Not for all his anger. Just do as I say. You seem no fool to me. Strip off these clothes and leave your craft for the winds to hurl, and swim for it now. You must strike out with your arms, for landfall there, Phaeacian island, where destined safety waits. Here, take this scarf, tie it around your waist. It is immortal. Nothing to fear now, neither pain nor death. But once you grasp the mainland with your hands, untie it quickly, throw it into the wine-dark sea, far from shore, but you, turn your head away." With that, the goddess handed him the scarf, and slipped back in the heavy breaking seas, like a sheer water once again. And a dark heaving billow closed above her. But battle-weary Odysseus waded 2 courses, deeply torn, probing his fighting spirit. "Oh no, I fear another immortal waves, a snare to trap me, urging me to abandon ship. I won't, not yet. That shore's too far away. I glimpsed it myself. Where she says refuge waits? No, here's what I'll do. It's what seems best to me. As long as the timbers cling and joints stand fast, I'll hold out abroad her and take my whipping. Once the breakers smash my craft to pieces, then I'll swim. No better plan for now." But just as great Odysseus thrashed things out, Poseidon, god of the earthquake, launched a colossal wave, terrible, murderous, arching over him, pounding down on him, hard as a windstorm blasting piles of dry parched chaff, scattering flying husks. So long planks of his boat were scattered far and wide, but Odysseus leapt aboard one timber, and riding it like a plundering racehorse, stripped away his clothes, divine Calypso's gifts, and quickly tying the scarf around his waist, he drove headfirst in the sea, stretched his arms, and stroked for life itself. But again, the mighty god of earthquakes spied him, shook his head, and grumbled deep in spirit, "Go, go, after all you've suffered, rove your miles of the sea, till you fall in the arms of people loved by Zeus. Even so, I can hardly think you'll find your punishments too light." With that threat, he lashed his team with their long flowing manes, gaining Aegea port, where his famous palace stands. But Zeus's daughter Athena countered him at once. Rest of the winds she stopped right in their tracks, commanding all of them to hush now, go to sleep. All but the boisterous north. She whipped him up, and the goddess beat the breakers flat before Odysseus, dear to Zeus, so he could reach the Phaeacians, mingle with men who love their long oars, and escape his death at last. Yes, but now, adrift on the heaving swells, 2 nights, 2 days, quite lost. Again and again the man foresaw his death. Then, when dawn and her lovely locks brought on the 3rd day, the wind fell in an instant. All gazed to a dead calm, and Odysseus, scanning sharply, raised high by ground swell, looked up and saw it, landfall, just ahead. Joy, warm as the joy that children feel when they see their father's life dawn again. One who's lying on a sick bed, racked with torment, wasting away, slowly, under some angry's power onslaught. Then what joy, when the gods deliver him from his pains! So warm, Odysseus' joy, when he saw that shore, those trees, as he swam on, anxious to plant his feet on solid ground again. But just offshore, as far as a man's shout can carry, he caught the boom of a heavy surf on jagged reefs. Roaring breakers crashed down on an iron-bound coast, exploding in fury. The whole sea shrouded. Sheets of spray, no harbors to hold ships, no roadstead where they'd ride, nothing but jutting headlands, rip-toothed reefs and cliffs. Odysseus' knees quaked and the heart inside him sank. He spoke to his fighting spirit, desperate. Worse and worse, now that Zeus has granted a glimpse of land beyond my hopes. And now I've crossed this waste of water, the end in sight. There's no way out of this boiling surf. I see no way. Rugged reefs offshore, around them breakers roaring, above them a smooth rock face, rising steeply. Look, and the surge too deep onshore, no spot to stand on my own 2 legs and battle free of death. If I chamber out, some big comber will hoist me, dash me against a cliff, my struggles all a waste. If I keep on swimming down the coast, trying to find a sea bench shelving against the waves, a sheltered cove, I dread it. Another gale will snatch me up and haul me back to the fish-infested sea, retching in despair. Or a dark power will lose some monster in me, rearing out of the waves, one with the thousands and frights breakers teem with. Well, I know the famous god of earthquakes hates my very name. Just as that fear went churning through his mind, a tremendous roller swept him towards the rocky coast where he had been frayed alive, his bones crushed if the bright-eyed goddess Pallas had not inspired him now. He lunged for a reef. He seized it with both hands and clung for dear life, groaning until the giant wave surged past, and so he escaped its force. But the breaker's backwash charged into him full fury and hurled him out to sea, like pebbles stuck in suckers of some octopus dragged from its lair. So strips of skin torn from his clawing hands stuck to rock face. A heavy sea covered him over. Then and there, unlucky Odysseus would have met his death, against the will of fate. But the bright-eyed one inspired him yet again. Fighting out from the breakers, pounding towards the coast. Out of danger he swam on, scanning the land, trying to find a sea bench shelving against the waves, a sheltered cove. And stroking hard, he came abreast of a river's mouth. Running calmly, the perfect spot, he thought, free of rocks, with a windbreak from the gales. As the current flowed, he felt the river's god and prayed to him in spirit. Hear me, Lord, whoever you are. I've come to you, the answer to all my prayers. Rescue me from the sea lord's curse. Even immortal gods will show a man respect. Whatever wanderer seeks their help, like me, I throw myself on your mercy, on your current now. I have suffered greatly. Pity me, Lord, your suppliant cries for help. So the man prayed. The god stemmed his current, held his surge at once, and smoothing out the swells before Odysseus now, drew him safe to shore at the river's mouth. His knees buckled, massive arms fell limp. The sea had beaten down his striving heart, his whole body swollen, brine aplenty, gushing out of his mouth and nostrils, breathless, speechless. There he lay, with only a little strength left in him. Deathly waves of exhaustion overwhelmed him now, but at once he regained his breath and rallied back to life. At last, he loosed the goddess's scarf from his body, dropped it into the river, flowing out to sea, and a swift current bore it far downstream, and sudden Ino caught it in her hands. Struggling from the banks, he flung himself in the deep reeds. He kissed the good green earth, and addressed his fighting spirit, desperate still. Man of misery, what next? Is this the end? If I wait out a long, tense night by the banks, I fear the sharp frost and the soaking dew together will do me in. I'm bone-weary, about to breathe my last, and a cold wind blows from a river on toward morning. But what if I climb that slope, go for the dark woods, and bed down in the thick brush? What if I'm spared the chill fatigue, and a sweet sleep comes my way? I fear wild beasts will drag me off as quarry. But this was the better course. It struck him now. He set out for the woods, and not far from the water he found a grove, with a clearing all around, and crawled beneath 2 bushy olives sprung from the same root. one olive wild, the other well-bred stalk. No sudden gusty winds could ever pierce them, nor could the sun's sharp rays invade their depths, nor could a downpour drench them through and through. So dense they grew together, tangling side by side. Odysseus crept beneath them, scraping up at once a good wide bed for himself with both hands. A fine litter of dead leaves had drifted in, enough to cover 2 men over, even 3, in the wildest kind of winter known to man. Long enduring great Odysseus, overjoyed at the sight, bedded down in the midst and heaped the leaves around him, as a man will bury his glowing bard in black ashes, off on a lonely farmstead, no neighbors near to keep a spark alive, no need to kindle fire from somewhere else. So great Odysseus buried himself in leaves, and Athena showered sleep upon his eyes, sleep in a swift wave, delivering him from all his pains and labors, blessed sleep that sealed his eyes at last.